Tonight it is emerging Ghana Armed Forces plane that crashed at Air Force Base had previously been hit in a terrorist attack in Mali.
One of the aircraft that were targeted by some terrorists had its fragments piercing our own aircraft when it was destroyed by the explosives.
We have the latest as a team from Airbus arrives in Ghana to investigate the crash. As Defense Minister revealed that the previous government left the crashed plane together with two others grounded without a contract.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, also brought to you by Gasem Cement, the nation builder. And Vodafone, the future is exciting ready. It is emerging tonight that the Ghana Armed Forces plane that crashed at the Air Force Base had previously been hit in a terrorist attack in Mali. The attack left the plane grounded, forcing government to spend about €1 million to repair the damage. There is no indication the damage from that terror attack may have contributed to this latest crash. We have more on that terror attack, and we will also hear from the Defense Minister. But first, head of our security desk, Gifty Ando Apia, has been speaking to multiple sources about the latest incident and joins me in the studio with details. Gifty, we'll go into what we're learning shortly, but there was a statement earlier today from the Public Affairs Department of the Ghana Armed Forces about this particular incident. It clarifies a few things. What is it that they say happened exactly?
So it talks about what was actually happening. First of all, it indicates that it happened this morning, but as we go along, we'll understand we'll get more clarification on that. But it talks about what was happening, which it describes as a routine engine checks. So this happened, they said, around 11:10 hours during a routine engine run, and there was no casualty. So what we know is that this grounded aircraft, they were just, trying the engine, and then they started moving. So it was not flying. It started moving, and then they tried to stop it, but it wouldn't stop. So it just kept going until it entered a ditch.
Okay.
And that was when the crash happened.
Okay. And it talks also about preliminary investigations.
Right. So it says a preliminary investigation team has been constituted to come up with an initial report within 48 hours. The manufacturers of the craft, which is Airbus, have been notified of the incident, and they're expected to fly in. Now, remember that this came a bit earlier. What we know now, which you've indicated, is that something has already been done. So it talks about notifying the manufacturers of the aircraft and the fact that they're expected to fly in.
What do we know about this particular type of aircraft? What is it called? And what there are technical terms involved here. But for those trained minds, and we're speaking to one very shortly, a former pilot of the Ghana Armed Forces, so try and break down for us. But what does the statement say about this type of aircraft?
So the statement calls it the CASA C295. The CASA C295, and it has a registration number of GHF552. And it is manufactured in November 2015, delivered to Ghana in February 2016, and it also goes on to say that it was due for mandatory checks in November 2019, but we do know that has not happened.
So we're going to go through that for you, because a few things in there. That line is pretty packed, because that explains a bit of maybe why what has happened. We'll hear from the Defense Minister about the maintenance regime, why it didn't fly to do the maintenance and all that. The Ghana Armed Forces has some assurances for the public on this, because we've seen photos, have we not, of this particular aircraft, and when you look at it, it looks like what you see on television, a proper crash. And they've been trying to calm the public.
Yeah, it does look, when you look at the picture, it does look like an aircraft that is that has entered a ditch and come to a stop.
Yeah.
If you look at the pictures that we're seeing in Evans, where this happened, it's very difficult for any civilian to see it at all. We understand that civil aviation people went there today to check what happened, and that's why we're seeing some of these pictures on social media. So the assurance that the Ghana Armed Forces is giving is that they want the public to know, especially the clientele of the Ghana Air Force, that it is still operational. Its activities have not been affected by this incident, and the morale of personnel are high. Remember, there were 2 pilots on this.
But we'll learn about their health shortly. But let's talk, Gifty, about you've been speaking to the defense minister.
Yeah.
He has been making a few corrections and clarifications in addition to the statement we just read. And so let's quickly point that out, because that is important. We'll learn a bit more from him. So
the initial statement that came from the Ghana Armed Forces indicated that this happened in the morning. But what we know from the minister is that he provided that clarification. He said it happened actually yesterday. What we also know again is that as a part of the 3rd paragraph, it says the aircraft has been non-operational since October 2019, and that the explanation we're getting is because it was not serviced, it was grounded. Okay. Because it wasn't serviced at the time, it was grounded. So it wasn't being used to carry any VIPs or anything at all. And this happened when they tried to run the engine.
No, that's not the case at all. This aircraft has the normal 4-year cycle. It reached the normal 4-year cycle in October 2019, and so was supposed to have been flown to Spain for the mandatory checkup, which will take between any time between 6 to 8 months to do the checkup. But unfortunately, Airbus has not been able to come for the aircraft, or we have not sent the aircraft to Airbus to do the checkup. So that's why the aircraft is parked in the hangar. Just like your car, when your car reaches the mandatory checkup period, you have to send the car for servicing. Unlike an aircraft, a car, you may risk using it, but in an aircraft, you cannot use it. So this aircraft was actually parked, but like a car, once in a while you run the engine, check the engine, make sure it's okay. So they brought it out of the hangar, they ran the engine test, and then this incident happened. So let me assure the public that it is not an aircraft that was flying. It was neither an aircraft that was also taking off, nor it was not an aircraft that was in service. It was parked since October. That's the point that the DPR, that's the Public Relations Department of the Ghana Armed Forces, tried to make by saying that since October, this aircraft has been in the hangar. We were expecting by our arrangement that by February, Airbus would have come for this aircraft. In fact, the Ghana Air Force has 3 of such aircraft on their inventory. But I just want to assure the general public that everything is under control. The Air Force is under control. The Air Force has managed to salvage, with the support of the Ghana Civil Aviation, salvage the aircraft. It's now parked at the airport where it was supposed to have already, it was supposed to go through the engine check.
And you said that an investigation is ongoing. In fact, the statement indicates that an investigation is ongoing. But based on the explanation you've given, just to be clear, what exactly are we investigating?
When there is an aircraft incident, whatever it is, you will normally investigate. It's a standard procedure. You will normally do what we call preliminary investigation. After that, if it demands to do thorough investigation, then that will be done. But the preliminary investigation will give you the indicators whether to go ahead to do the full scale investigation or not. And so we're waiting for the preliminary investigation. The incident happened yesterday. Not today. The incident happened yesterday.
Okay.
And so we are hoping that by tomorrow we'll get the first information as to what really happened, and it will give us an idea about whether to go ahead or not to proceed. But
you indicated, you mentioned the pilots. These 2 pilots who were on board, how are they feeling? Do you know?
Some of the best pilots you can find around the world are our Air Force pilots. They know the aircraft they fly like how you know your pants, or you know your butt, or you know your socks. Of course, it's normal that incidents will happen. They are machines, so incidents can happen. It is just for that purpose that they normally will run an engine check to make sure everything is okay, so that we don't get such incidents when the aircraft begins to fly. Remember that even when they are sending this aircraft, it will have to fly to Spain for it to be done. So it is important for them to be doing this kind of test run. But the pilots are okay; they are feeling fine.
So, good news about the pilots who were flying this plane when this incident indeed happened. But as I told you at the top of the bulletin, we are now learning more about this particular plane and its history in service, particularly an incident in which it was hit in a terrorist attack in Mali. And Gifty, you've been digging a bit into this.
Yeah. So what we know is that this attack happened somewhere in November 2016, and actually the target was not Ghana.
Okay.
The target was a Bangladeshi team that was part of a UN peacekeeping mission, and so an explosive was thrown to at them, and then it went off. When that happened, it affected part of our CASA 295. Now, I have a quote here from a Daily Guide Network, dailyguidenetwork.com, and I'll read it to you. And I quote, it says, on November 29, 2016, the jihadist group Al-Mawbitun, a jihadist group with links to Al-Qaeda, carried out a suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive attack at the Gao airport that significantly damaged some of the CASA aircraft's major components. The aircraft was recovered to Accra for further examination and repairs for 8 weeks before it finally resumed service in August 10, 2017 until October 25, 2017. Essentially, it takes time to repair these things, and then at that time, the troops were withdrawn back home.
So I'm sure you'll be asking, so what was this particular plane, a Ghana Armed Forces plane, doing in Mali, in a place known for terrorist activity? Listen to the Defense Minister explain what this plane was doing there, but also give us a bit of detail, not only about this plane, but about two other similar planes and what happened to them just before he took over in 2017.
In fact, Ghana Air Force has 3 of such aircraft on their inventory. When we came in 2017, all the aircraft were grounded for various reasons. The 3 were all grounded for various reasons. 2 of them were grounded because they were due for servicing, but unfortunately were not sent for servicing for whatever reason it was. But they were not sent. The 3rd one, which is this current one, had a problem in Mali when it was serving under the UN, and so it was brought back home and also grounded. It was easier to fix this particular one, so we got money, about €1 million. We quickly fixed this particular one, and it was in service. Along the line, we managed to get resources to send the other 2 for servicing. They are all back. One came back in April of last year. The other came back, I think, October of last year, and so the 2 are in service. This particular one, which was in service, reached its mandatory period in October and has been grounded, hoping that by February it will go.
You indicated that when you took over office, that these 2, there were 3 of them, that 2 of them, and all 3 were grounded as of the time you took office. This was in, 2016?
They were grounded. One was grounded in 2015. The other was grounded in 2016. They were all due for service, and just like the way this one is due for service, it was also due for the mandatory service period. But for some reasons, they were not able to conclude the arrangement and send them. So they were grounded. The 3rd one had a problem serving the UN. It was part of the aviation force serving in Mali under the UN. The UN. It had a problem in Mali because one of the aircraft that were targeted by some terrorists had its fragments piercing our own aircraft when it was destroyed by the explosives, and so we had to also move ours, and it could not fly when it came to Ghana, and so it was also grounded. Like I said, we managed to work on our aircraft, and so it started flying, leaving the 2 that were due for service. Then within the year, we got the resources, sent them for servicing, and they are back and they are working. Because this 3rd one was supposed to send, but between the time that it was grounded in October and now, Airbus has not been able to pick it up for some reasons, and so we were hoping that Airbus would pick it up maybe February for it also to go for the mandatory service, which would take anything between 6 to 8 months for it to have been done. So if we were to send it in February, where we will hope that we get it somewhere in November or December this year. But like I said, this incident has happened.
The defense minister there, and you may have heard him say that this particular aircraft isn't the only one in the, I guess, as part of the fleet for the armed forces, but there are two others, and that when they came in, those two others were all grounded. You asked him also why these planes were grounded when they came in?
Yes, first of all, he told me that he wasn't giving any detailed explanations why, but based on his own checks, he realized that there was no contract because with this particular arrangement, Airbus will have to do the servicing. You cannot outsource it. If you bought it from Airbus, Airbus will have to service it. But he says that based on his own checks, he realized that there were no contracts on this.
There are issues that sometimes you just work on when you become a minister. You don't have to worry yourself so much. There was a task. The aircraft were on the ground. The pilots needed it. They needed it for two reasons. One, to do their normal work, to protect us for surveillance, for carrying of passengers, for moving of soldiers, movement of equipment. Secondly, also to ensure that the pilots you train get what we call air miles. Because that's what they judge them based on that. Their competence and everything based on the air mile, the number of hours that they fly. I did not want to probe to know exactly why those aircraft were on the ground, but your guess is as good as mine. Why aircraft that was supposed to have gone for service is not gone for service? So
I don't have a guess, unfortunately.
Like I said to you, these aircraft were bought from Airbus in Spain, and so they are the only people who will come and service them. We don't give them to third parties. They are the same people who come to service them. A contract was not signed when I came. Okay. And so I presuppose that there was some technical difficulty.
We are also learning about the nature of the investigations, and the statement that was issued earlier from the Ghana Armed Forces had already told us about some preliminary investigations that need to happen. Yeah. Do we know who is leading this?
Well, we know that the team from Airbus, the representatives from Airbus have already arrived in the country and they've already started some work, according to the minister.
The team from the Airbus, obviously, who are the manufacturers, have been very helpful. Ever since I became minister, they've been very, very helpful. And just as protocol would demand, we got them informed they are around to ensure that everything is okay. But like I said, the preliminary information from them is that they will be able to salvage the aircraft, maintain the aircraft, and bring it to life as we have wished it to be if that incident had not happened. So, like I said, things are under control. We may have to spend just a little bit of money to top up the servicing to repair some of the parts that are broken off. But
how much are we looking at here, sir?
I don't know. I cannot know.
And in fact, if you check the Airbus website, it has a lot of detail about this particular craft C295. It calls it the most versatile and efficient tactical transport aircraft. And that is part of its new generation tactical airlifter in the light and medium segment. It's robust and reliable, but also highly versatile in terms of the number of different missions it can perform. And as we've already told you, it's already been performing missions in Mali under the UN's mandate. That's where it got involved in this terrorist incident that damaged it. We had to spend €1 million to repair it. And as I've indicated, we don't know yet if that particular incident and the repairs that were done may have contributed to this latest incident. But I'm delighted to say that I've just been joined by Air Commodore Pumpuni, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you very much.
I read this statement. I mean, I wonder how much you know about CASA C295. Airbus says it's versatile and efficient. I'm guessing you probably have flown one before.
Well, I think just as you said, the information is quite true, and they proved that to us from the short time that we've used it.
What's your own testimony on its efficiency as an aircraft?
That's what I'm saying. That it's proved what has been publicized on it already.
Oh, okay. So it's versatile and efficiency. So when a few details about the incident we're reading about, when the armed forces say it overrun its apron at the Air Force base today, what is it?
To be honest with you, I have not got any details. I just also heard it in the air that there was a ground incident on the aircraft there. I don't actually know what happened or how it happened. I have not been there yet. So I'm unable to comment properly on it.
In terms of such incidents, from what the minister says, it's they're trying to warm the engine, test it a bit. It wasn't an incident in the air; it was a ground incident. When an incident such as this happens, what normally is the procedure that, in your experience, will naturally kick in?
Yeah, from experience, after a servicing, possibly on the engines and so on, there is always a ground run. You run the engine to see whether you attain the correct readings that you require on the air. And most times you have a pilot sitting in there to do that, the ground run. I know in Britain, Royal Air Force, some technicians are trained to do that. Where there are no technicians trained to in that level, we use the air crew, the pilot, who sits in to do the run, and then the engineer or the technician sits by him and takes the readings as the engine revs up. So I don't know whether there was a pilot in the aircraft or there was no pilot.
From what we learned, there were two pilots in the aircraft who were going through the motions with this particular flight.
Okay. Then I don't know whether if there were qualified pilots on it, they should have been able to stop it, unless if there were things like brake failures and so on that couldn't stop it. Otherwise, I cannot see how an aircraft can start taxiing off and then pilots in it cannot redirect it or stop it. If it's just ordinary technician, then you may not expect him to know what to do. But if there was a pilot in it and the aircraft starts rolling as he opens the power, he knows how to stop it. So I'm not too sure about what he's saying.
We're also learning from the armed forces, and that this was due for servicing. It's been due for servicing for a while, for more than a year, and hasn't been serviced yet because of you need to only go to Airbus. Could that have possibly contributed to this in your experience if it was due for mandatory servicing and it hadn't been done?
If the aircraft was due for servicing and for that reason it's been grounded, then I don't see why anybody should be running the engine at all. If it was due for servicing and it's been grounded, if it's not grounded, it means it's still flyable, and therefore the engines can be put on and then used in a way.
So your point you're saying is that if it was due for mandatory servicing, then you couldn't have done the procedure they were trying to do at all.
Yes, it would have been part for it to be sent to wherever all the engineers coming from Airbus come and do a servicing here.
That's an important point you're raising, that if it was, and the statement actually says that it was due for mandatory, but hasn't been done. You're saying that as with your experience, if that is the case, then you cannot run the engines and try to taxi.
There'll be no point running the aircraft when it's to be sent away for because what are you doing? What are you running for? You're not going to fly it. If it's due for maintenance, you will fly it. So what are you running it for? You only run it when you need to fly it off. Otherwise, I don't know why they should be starting it making it.
And I need to ask this because of your experience in this area. I mean, this is the Ghana Air Force. I mean, and there are some gallant men there who are really qualified. If you're reading about and some of the experience you're sharing with us, it appears that we have a long way to go to sort of be up to scratch with some of these key things.
Well, we don't describe our pilots as gallant men. They are efficient and we're trained the pilots. So there's no question of we having gallant men there. If the aircraft is due for servicing, it will be booked to be sent away for servicing. If it's not flyable to where the servicing needs to be done, then nobody will fly. Everybody will leave the aircraft here until the servicing crew comes from wherever. But if it is to be flown out for servicing, it means probably they leave some hours on that will enable them to fly it from here to Spain or wherever they're going to do the first servicing. I don't know the case of this aircraft. The state is what was in.
Are we, in your estimation, is our Air Force equipped, I guess, adequately with the right type of aircraft in its right quantity, with the know-how to sort of do the kind of jobs that we expect them to do?
Oh, you can do some of the jobs up to a limit. Almost all the aircraft that you have, there's a time that when it's due, you have to fly to the manufacturers to do a major servicing on. If there's a major servicing, definitely it will have to be taken away to the manufacturers to be done. The crew here, both the ground and air crew, have a limit as to their training, and therefore the type of servicing they can do here. Those they can do, the daily ones and minor ones, they can do it here. If it's a major one, they may seek assistance from the manufacturers. They may send a crew here to come and do it, or the aircraft had to be there. So that is what is the normal case.
I'm grateful that we could speak to you and tap into your expertise. Air Commodore Pumpuni speaking to us here about this particular incident. And as we indicated, those two pilots are fine. And the Airbus team finally arrived today, and they've already given an assessment that this particular plane is recoverable. And you had Air Commodore Pumpuni, in fact, confirm that this is a very good aircraft, efficient and tactical. And now that the Airbus has preliminarily said that it's recoverable, it looks very possible that it could be back in the air doing the missions across the continent and possibly the UN. That's a top story for tonight. Newsnight in a short while. We hear from the New Patriotic Party telling us they will not oppose if the Electoral Commission decides to rescind its position and its decision to go ahead to compile a new voters register. We'll hear the details from the national organizer. Join us on Newsnight.